heating up.
We're beating Biden.
How dare he say that?
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill. We know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America. Hello and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Eric Ham, coming to you live from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. And over the next few minutes, we'll take you from the United States and around the world, covering all the top stories of the day. But before that, let's take a look at the latest headlines. Ceasefire talks in Gaza come to a halt after Hamas makes more demands and proposes more changes. Secretary of State Antony Blinken tells Hamas leaders they're in no position to make any changes. South Korea says it is closely watching Vladimir Putin's plan to visit North Korea. The Russian president is likely to visit Pyongyang and meet Kim Jong-un next week. Switzerland says its government websites were briefly hacked after being hit by a wave of cyber attacks. This as the European nation prepares to host the Ukraine Peace Summit on Saturday. A boat carrying over 270 passengers capsizes, leaving at least 80 dead in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Eyewitnesses say the vessel hit the edge of a riverbank and broke into pieces. And Florida declares a state of emergency in several counties after incessant rainfall causes flash floods. The U.S. Weather Department predicts more rain and strong gusts in the Sunshine State through Sunday. We begin in Europe, where Italy is hosting the Group of Seven, or G7 nations. President Joe Biden and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky are scheduled to meet and sign a new bilateral security agreement on the sidelines of the G7 summit. Now, the pact will commit both countries to a long-term defense and security cooperation framework, and it's expected to be an executive agreement which will make it less formal than a treaty and non-binding for any future presidents. Confirming the agreement, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan stated that it would not include the direct deployment of U.S. troops to Ukraine. He also called it a bridge towards Ukraine's potential inclusion into NATO. Now, on the sidelines of the summit, President Biden is also expected to press G7 leaders to move forward with a complex strategy to convert seized Russian assets into a new funding source for Ukraine. Now, this will enable billions of dollars to be allocated for Kyiv to bolster its defenses in the year 2025 and beyond.
This is a critical moment. The stakes of this war are high, and Ukraine's survival is on the line, but so is all of our security. None of us would want to live in a world where Putin prevails. We would all be less secure if tyrants think that they can trample borders and cow their neighbors.
Now, as part of the latest agreement, Washington plans to hold consultations with Ukraine immediately following a future attack by Russia. However, this agreement will not include a mutual defense clause, which would otherwise commit the United States to defend Ukraine militarily in the event of another attack. Now, while President Zelensky has welcomed these commitments, he's also emphasized that they do not promise full NATO membership, which includes a mutual defense of allies under Article 5. Now, the proposal continues to be logistically complicated and legally thorny, as some European officials still harbor doubts about its viability. However, NATO allies have increased their support for Ukraine, including allowing Kyiv to fire Western weapons into Russian territory. Over the last 2 weeks, France, Germany, the UK, and the United States have allowed President Zelensky to attack Russian military targets inside Russia, and the move has already paid massive dividends. President Biden remains hopeful, however, the G7 will unify around this framework that will provide the much-needed resources to fortify Ukraine and serve as a bulwark against an increasingly bellicose Russia. And now moving to South America, Argentina's Senate has voted to approve the first set of harsh austerity measures proposed by President Javier Milei. The bill was passed after a marathon debate and seeks to boost investment by privatizing public entities and providing incentives for businesses.
For those Argentinians who deserve to regain the pride of being Argentinian and always thinking of everything for Argentina, my vote is affirmative for today's Order 3724.
Now, the move has sparked tensions among Argentines who protested violently on the streets of Buenos Aires. Thousands of protesters gathered near the Senate building in a demonstration against Milei's reform bill. While the protests began with songs and street barbecues, they soon turned violent as riots erupted shortly after the debate unfolded inside the Congressional building.
No, we can't give in. He's not Nero, he's waiting for us to set everything on fire. This man thinks he is an emperor, that's why I say he is crazy. It's not like that. This guy thinks he owns everything, that he can change everything. It's not going to change it.
Argentinian police tried to disperse the crowd using tear gas, rubber bullets, pepper spray, and even water cannons. Several opposition leaders who were part of these protests had to be hospitalized and treated for burns to their eyes and skin. The police detained 18 people in the connection with violent protests, and the Milei administration accused them of attempting to overthrow the government. Now, President Milei has vowed to slash state spending with his chainsaw campaign and contends his austerity measures will bring inflation and the country's sovereign debt under control. However, critics predict the steep cuts will only worsen the situation.
This is a disastrous law for the Argentine people where there is a labor reform without severance pay, where workers pay the salary tax again, where President Terminator is empowered to take any measure for 1 year, where international corporations are empowered to invest in our country with a 30-year grace period on taxes.
The Argentine president has already planned to dismiss 70,000 government employees in the coming months, along with slashing state subsidies for fuel, cutting off funding to provincial governments, and freezing public works. All of this comes at a time when Argentina's annual inflation rate sits at nearly 300% amid a recession that's only deepening.
This law attacks all workers in Argentina. I am a retired teacher, and I do not want to be the last generation of retirees in my family. I want my sister, who is a doctor, to be able to retire, my niece, who is a student, and my daughters, who are professionals and who will not be able to retire if the pension package passes today.
The controversial reform bill that's sparking nationwide outrage features 600 articles and must be approved by lawmakers article by article. Now, if everything falls into place, President Milei could finally claim his first legislative win, a monumental milestone which has so far eluded him 6 months into office. And staying in South America, the Brazilian government has hired the tech company OpenAI to assist the country's judiciary. Artificial intelligence will now tell Brazil's Solicitor General about which cases need to be addressed urgently while flagging legal loopholes. The Brazilian judiciary says that hiring OpenAI would also help in reducing legal costs. The Brazilian government is estimated to spend an astounding $13 billion on judicial decisions just next year alone. Our next report goes into detail about Brazil's trailblazing experimentation with AI.
Artificial intelligence disruption is the next hot topic. The real-world application of the technology is being widely tested. Tech companies like Google and OpenAI are accelerating the embrace of AI. As they strive to deploy the benefits of artificial intelligence to everyday life, countries across the world are tapping into the technological advancements, aiming to streamline operations across various sectors. And Brazil is the latest to join the list. The South American nation has now hired OpenAI to cut its legal costs. The technology is expected to help the Brazilian government avoid losing money on expensive fees on court battles that are straining its budget. The technology will be used to speed up the process of screening and analyzing thousands of lawsuits. It is expected to flag the cases that require government action before final decision, or to map trends and avoid making costly mistakes. OpenAI services will be provided through Microsoft's cloud computing software Azure, though it's not clear how much Brazil will pay for these services. But the government has spent a hefty amount so far owing to its court losses. As per the estimates, it's going to spend over $13 billion next year on the cases it can no longer appeal. This consumes a growing share of Brazil's federal budget. As the government turns to AI to solve the crisis, it also assures that the technology would not eat up jobs and will only aid in gaining accuracy and efficacy. While Brazil tests AI in the legal arena, countries across the world are deploying AI tools in various forms. In sectors like healthcare to banking and even education, artificial intelligence is being used for better services and results. One of the leading examples is the US government, which is leveraging AI technology not just in areas like healthcare and transportation, but also national security and defense. A slew of other nations are also catching up, including China, Russia, the United Kingdom, and India. Though the debate around AI replacing humans is here to stay, with the significant rise of AI in such fields, for now, the focus remains on how effective the technology can be in streamlining government functioning.
And now returning to the United States, billionaire Elon Musk is facing an increasing number of lawsuits. The latest accusation alleges the SpaceX and Tesla CEO of having sexual relations with his employees. A striking report claims a former SpaceX employee and the tech billionaire had a brief romantic relationship back in 2017. She states that he continued to pursue her, often sending late-night texts and inviting her to his mansion. And despite her initial excitement about the job, the professional relationship grew uncomfortable due to Musk's persistent advances. According to the report, these interactions made her role increasingly difficult, prompting her to seek a different position within the company. She also alleged that the situation reached a critical point when Musk asked her to bear his children. And upon her refusal, she was denied a raise, suggesting retaliation for not complying with his request. However, this is not the first time former executives and employees have voiced their concerns about Elon Musk. Various workers claim that complaints about Musk's behavior were often ignored and that the billionaire was exempt from the rules that apply to others. The former employees say that this created a toxic work environment where employees felt pressured to tolerate inappropriate behavior from the top. Now, Musk has not publicly commented on these latest allegations. However, Gwynne Shotwell, SpaceX's president and COO, has defended Musk, stating that he is one of the best humans she knows. She highlighted that SpaceX thoroughly investigates all harassment claims and takes appropriate actions to address them. SpaceX and Elon Musk's lawyers have also dismissed the reports, claiming it's full of untruths. The recent allegations are particularly sensitive for Musk, as he is already under intense scrutiny for his substantial $46 billion pay package at Tesla, which is being contested by shareholders. The growing controversy over his personal conduct could further impact public perception and investor confidence in his leadership. And finally, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, it seems, can't catch a break. The 44-year-old conservative leader is facing flack for his remarks once again. Sunak, who attended one of the UK's most expensive schools, has said that his childhood wasn't all that privileged. When asked in an interview what hardships he faced while growing up, Sunak said he didn't have cable TV. Now, these remarks come at a time when many in Britain are finding it difficult to put food on the table and afford basic housing. Now, the millionaire prime minister is being heavily criticized on social media, with users accusing him of being out of touch with the reality of ordinary citizens in the country. Our final report takes you inside the latest controversy plaguing the prime minister.
UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak's controversial remarks have made headlines once again. The 44-year-old, who sits on a fortune of over $820 million with his wife Akshata Murthy, has said that he went without lots of things as a child, including a satellite TV. In a recent interview, Sunak reflected on the sacrifices his parents made during his childhood. When asked about what he missed out on while growing up, Sunak struggled to provide a clear answer. And when the interviewer pressed him to be more specific, the Prime Minister, who attended one of Britain's most expensive boarding schools, thought only of not having the satellite-linked Sky TV as his best example of hardship.
Wanted as a kid that I couldn't have, right? Famously, Sky TV.
Sunak's comments have been receiving a massive backlash on social media, with people accusing him of being out of touch with ordinary citizens. The millionaire has also ignited a flurry of memes on X, formerly known as Twitter, with users calling him Poor Rishi and setting up a fake GoFundMe campaign for him. This isn't the first time that the Conservative Prime Minister has made such remarks. Earlier, he also faced scrutiny over his perceived detachment from the working class. A resurfaced clip from 2007 captured Sunak saying that he did not have working-class friends during his upbringing. The opposition Labour Party has always tried to use Sunak's personal wealth to suggest that he is unable to relate to the problems faced by most people in Britain.
Never again will a Prime Minister or Chancellor be allowed to rush through plans that are uncosted, unscrutinised and wholly detached from economic reality.
Now, Sunak's latest remarks have further strengthened the opposition's point, especially when the country is grappling with sky-high inflation and a cost of living crisis. The UK has seen prices of rent, food and energy increase dramatically since 2021, and Britons feel that Sunak, who took office in 2022, has failed to address their issues.
Really? I think Labour will get in because people will just want to vote the Tories out. It won't be they want Labour in, they would just want the Tories out. And I think the sad thing is the country's it seems to be in such a mess. National health is in such a mess. I don't really know what someone else coming in can really help. It took years to get in this mess. It'll take years to get out.
Yeah. The United Kingdom will vote on the 4th of July in a snap election that was called for by Sunak last month. So, with a net worth that puts him even ahead of Britain's King Charles, is Sunak too rich to rule?
That's our show for today. We certainly thank you once again for tuning in. We hope to see you right back here again tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching. From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
We're beating Biden. How dare he say that?
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America.